If Joe Biden were being honest, are you kidding me? Joe Biden is the one who's at the beach. Yes, no, wait a minute. Let me finish the sentence, okay? Yes. Joe Biden was at the beach. The storm hit on Thursday night. He's on the beach. He doesn't even think about going. And you know what? Kemp asked for disaster relief for 99 counties. And Donald Trump was right when he said that they're not giving the Republicans the relief. The Biden administration only gave relief for 11. And then when everybody kicked and screamed, Biden said, okay, we'll give 30 counties some disaster relief. So let's just be truthful about this. And I got to tell you, one thing that aggravates the hell out of me, why do Democrats think the way to solve the problem is to throw money in it? Close the damn border. If you don't have enough money for American citizens who are in an emergency, who need food and baby formula and everything else and heat, we can't even find them. And yes, there are places where the National Guard hasn't even hit yet. Well, damn it, that money is my money. It's for Americans in a disaster. It is not for illegals who violated our law to come here in the first place. And by the way, it's $1 billion of FEMA money. Biden in 2022 created a program that allows a transfer of FEMA money. And if $1 billion isn't enough to scare you, our administration has spent $66 billion on illegals. And that's for education, medication, law enforcement, and welfare.
That doesn't even include law enforcement.
Well, in the end, what we've got is Americans suffering when we fought the wars, built the streets, and now we're letting illegals we don't even know want to flip the bird to us in the end and give them the money when our kids don't have baby formula. You can be damn sure they got baby formula at the border for illegals. Enough of this nonsense.
She's bringing the heat to the Biden-Harris administration, and by most accounts, what she's saying is right. The left is now exposed through natural calamities, and this is not even the worst news that I found. How would you feel if the Vice President of the United States ordered to have supplies loaded on a plane for a simple photo op, and then deciding not to have these supplies sent to Americans that need it the most? Would you consider that distasteful? Because reports are now coming out that Kamala Harris just did this to the victims of Hurricane Helene. And guys, before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thanks for hitting the like button and subscribing. Let's jump in.
And then also from that video, I started getting a lot of messages to my Instagram from actual aircraft commanders, squadron commanders.
No kidding.
I had a squadron commander from North Carolina reach out to me. They had to load a C-17 full of supplies just to take a photo op for Kamala, and they never sent the bird.
Wait a minute, what?
They loaded an entire C-17 full of supplies for the hurricane victims just for Kamala to go there, take a photo, take a video, and they never sent the C-17. It was just
Are you serious?
Yeah, that was a National Guard, North Carolina National Guard unit. That was a 06 that reached out to me. And then I had another...
He reached out to you to tell you that they did a photo op and with the intention of never sending.
Never sent it. It was just a photo op.
Now, how do you feel about that? Now, this comes from a podcast hosted by Sean Ryan. Now, Ryan's a former U.S. Navy SEAL who had veterans who assisted with the response to Hurricane Helene in North Carolina. Harris's team was quick to get on top of this, as it looks like they told the North Carolina National Guard to patch this thing up. According to them, the C-17 that they're talking about was supposed to make an aid trip, but that trip was canceled at the last minute. It wasn't because they staged a photo op with no intent of sending aid to Americans, but that they experienced a mechanical issue which rendered the plane useless, is what we're told. They swear that the supplies in the photos and videos were loaded onto another plane which flew the very next day, bringing all of these much needed supplies to victims of the hurricane. Y'all believe that? Unbelievable. Now, if it were up to Kamala Harris, aid would only be provided based on race.
It is our lowest income communities and our communities of color that are most impacted by these extreme conditions and impacted by issues that are not of their own making. And so absolutely. And so we have to address this in a way that is about giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place. And if we want people to be in an equal place, sometimes we have to take into account those disparities.
Now, I guess somebody has to ask her if these communities are listed below Ukraine and illegal immigrants, because we know that they've already spent billions of dollars on both. And this is why there's disappointment when it comes to these calamities right here at home, because United States citizens are being treated worse than those who weren't even born here. This isn't what her campaign needs at this moment. And as we've noticed, she's been all over the place just trying to catch up to Trump. As she said, and I can quote her, they are the underdogs, which may explain why they needed to take a fake photo just to make her look good. Because the consensus is that she just doesn't care about us, and that she would rather have a country filled with illegal immigrants who are sure to vote her into office. Her problem now is that the voters who actually live in this country are starting to wake up. Now, guys, I want you guys to take a look at this black woman who's sitting behind the person that Kamala Harris is talking to in this clip here. Now, I want you to look at her mouth and see for yourself how fed up the people are with Kamala Harris's same old speeches. She's the one who has her eyes shut at the beginning here.
Part of my plan is for startup small businesses. The tax deduction right now is $5,000 to extend it to $50,000. Knowing what that will mean to tap into the ambition and the aspirations that people have, knowing that unlike my opponent, who got handed $400 million on a silver tray and filed for bankruptcy 6 times, most people don't have that access to the wealth that is necessary for them to start a small business.
She fought so hard not to say what Kamala Harris was going to say. She rolled her eyes before she said the exact same thing as the VP. Now, this can be due to her listening to the same old script multiple times. Either that or the teleprompter guy is getting fired, one of the two. Now, as far as we know, the vice president's pulling out all the stops to try and close the gap between her and Donald Trump. But botches like this only makes it that much more obvious that she's out of her league here. Now, I'll also cut the first part out where she says the exact same thing about her opportunity economy. So if you've listened to her talk about it once, then you've listened to all of them. Basically, she just keeps saying the same stuff over and over and over. She's almost like an AI bot. Actually, that's almost disrespectful to the AI bots, because AI is a lot smarter than Kamala Harris. I remember reading about this huge wealth transfer that was happening, but I never imagined how real it would be until I started seeing people I knew actually getting ahead. Meanwhile, I was feeling left behind. And it wasn't luck. They were positioned with the right people and resources at the right time. The Life Pursuit Network gives you the exact same advantage. For less than $1 a day, you can learn the strategies that others are using to seize this massive opportunity. Don't stand on the sidelines while others succeed without you. Join us right now and be a part of this great wealth transfer that's already changing lives.
I know it's a late night show. I don't know if this is sexist. I'm trying to figure out whether I'd be saying this if it were a male. I think I would. But there's also the image of the first potential female president trying to maintain your image, or in her case, build it, of a serious person who is, yes, you can laugh here or there, you can have a good time, but not to come across as a giggling, cackling schoolgirl.
Now, we're getting closer and closer to the presidential election. There are a few issues that may change the course of our nation for good. There's the economy, there's immigration, there's democracy, there's abortion, and of course, conflicts overseas. Now, in terms of the economy and immigration, Donald Trump is easily winning in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Now, in terms of democracy and abortion, Kamala Harris holds the lead, thanks in part to how they've smeared Donald Trump with January 6th. Now, when it comes to conflict in the Middle East, Donald Trump again takes a commanding lead in all 3 states. He also has a comfortable lead when it comes to the question of being the commander-in-chief of our military. All of this is great news for the Trump campaign. It's also a reason as to why Kamala Harris is being pressured to show up to these friendly shows. But her and Trump are not cut from the same cloth. She's not holding up to the pressure, and it's only a matter of time until she eventually breaks.
What are we seeing?
Here we are. Right now, we are seeing an 80% probability of Trump winning the Electoral College. And take a look at what we're seeing here. North Carolina, we do not see any path barring a major shift in the polling at this hour for Kamala Harris. And Georgia remains tight, but the outlying areas solid red, and we're seeing an uptick in the percentages into the low 60s for the outlying counties, which are balancing very blue Atlanta and Fulton County. But we see that. Pennsylvania, we are seeing it approaching a 4-point spread in VT Analytics. Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. If those go as we are currently projecting, the night would be over for Kamala Harris, and here's why. These 3 without Arizona is 270 That's the ball game. Even if she was to win Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada at that point, with the rest that are projected very solidly in blue and red through the West, the Electoral College math will simply be at least 270 for Donald Trump. So, and with the election little under 5 weeks from today, that's what we see.
This is uncharted territory for Donald Trump. He's never held the lead so comfortably at this point of a presidential election, which makes sense as to what Vice President Kamala Harris has been doing as of late. Even with calamities hitting the nation, she is clearly on a mission to reach out to more voters, especially those who may still be undecided at this point. This is the price that they pay for keeping her hidden from the public for way too long. They thought that the mainstream liberal media propaganda was enough to kind of get her across the finish line. However, we see that voters are now focusing on what really matters. Who is the leader that can get us out of these multiple issues? I don't think that many people believe that the person for the job is President Joe Biden, especially when you take into consideration his catastrophic approval rating. So now Harris has to try to distance herself from him. But here's what she had to say when she was asked about their differences. And guys, before we get started, I just want to say thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for hitting the like button and subscribing. Let's jump in.
Polling shows that a lot of people, especially independent voters, really want this to be a change election, and that they tend to break for you in terms of thinking about change. You are a member of the president's administration. Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change in terms of... But also, I think it's important to say with 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump. And so when we think about the significance of what this next generation of leadership looks like, were I to be elected president, it is about, frankly, I love the American people, and I believe in our country. I love that it is our character and nature to be an ambitious people. We have aspirations, we have dreams, we have incredible work ethic, and I just believe that we can create and build upon the success we've achieved in a way that we continue to grow opportunity, and in that way grow the strength of our nation.
It's kind of like she's reading off of a Hallmark card, right? I was worried there for a second that she was going to talk about the significance of the passage of time and how insulting it is to our intelligence that her only difference to Joe Biden is that they don't have the same name, that they're not the same person. And what does it matter if she's not Trump? Biden and Donald Trump are obviously two different people. We don't need her to point that out for us, with policies that are extremely opposite of each other. It's also worth noting that Kamala Harris did do a lot of her cackling in this episode. But here's Megyn Kelly breaking it down for us.
The return of the cackle.
Tech stop to quit. I'm sorry. Because I can't just be giving a drink to the vice president of my life. There you go.
Oh my God.
Right now, leaning towards Trump, but I haven't made a decision. I'm also concerned about the way I feel President Biden was pushed aside.
Oh.
And so close to the elections, I believe these are extraordinary circumstances. How can you clarify this whole process and how you were elected?
Sure. And first of all, thank you for being so candid and allowing me to answer the question. Thank you. President Biden made a decision that I think history will show was probably one of the most courageous that a president could make, which is he decided to put country above his personal interest. And he made that decision. He within that same period of time, supported my candidacy and urged me to run. He and I have been partners for the last 4 years as his vice president, to him as the president. And I am honored to have earned the Democratic nomination. I am honored to have the endorsement of people from every walk of life. You will probably find that I probably have a bigger coalition of people who couldn't seem to be more different than each other, who have come together around my candidacy. From 200 Republicans who worked with and for both Presidents Bush, John McCain, Mitt Romney, including Liz Cheney, the former Congresswoman, and her father, the former Vice President, Dick Cheney, who was supporting me. Former members, very esteemed members, including generals of the national security community. I have the endorsement and support of Alberto Gonzales, most recently, who of course was Attorney General. I have the support of people from every background, and I believe this is the reason why. It is incredibly important, and I know you and I can see you are a patriot, that we have the President of the United States who honors the oath that they take to support the Constitution of the United States. There is a huge contrast in this election. Donald Trump has said he will be a dictator on day one.
I felt right there, just before she said Donald Trump, leading up to this, I was like, she's setting up for the attack on Donald Trump. But watch this.
Many people come from backgrounds and countries of origin, and we know what that means when you're talking about someone who wants to be president of the United States and wants to be a dictator, and what that means in terms of taking freedoms from their people. Donald Trump has said he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. I urge you to look at Project 2025, and you will see he will strip the Department of Justice of its independence and put in and hire across the board, instead of career public servants, his people.
And well, at this point, the Democratic Party is just so desperate that they've even had to call on Barack Obama to campaign for Vice President Kamala Harris. Guys, I covered this in a previous live stream that I urge you to watch. And it is shocking to hear how Obama is talking about Donald Trump. And you'll never guess what happened on stage and how the crowd reacted. Make sure you check out that live stream of Obama right after this one, guys. Click on the channel, click on the live tab, watch what happens. As always, thank you guys so much for hitting the like button and subscribing. And if you want to take it a step further, I also left the link if you guys want to buy me a coffee. That'd be cool too. Link in the description down below. I'll see you guys next time.